Realtors, I want to give you some suggestions on dealing with selling a house right now and also dealing with buyers in this market. And I think the best way to understand that is to look at data and to go back and look at 2021 data. First-time home buyers represented 21% of all buyers in Florida. That compares to 35% of all buyers being first-time home buyers in the rest of the country. I think that's an important statistic. And it tells me that homes are more expensive here, and all I have to do is add the additional statistic that the average age of that first-time home buyer is 57 years old in the state of Florida, and that first-time home buyer in the state of Florida was making almost $100,000 a year. Know your data, know how to present this to your sellers, know how to capture the buyers that are right for the listing that you have. So let's be very clear, when we are listing a house, and we're representing the seller and we're trying to get the most money for that seller, we need to know something about the potential buyer. Again, I say, let's go back to the data, let's take a look at the trends, and we don't have to go very far to look in 2021. And we find in 2021, the average age of a seller was 63 years old. And why did they sell? They sold for two reasons. The most common reason sellers are selling is that 16% of the sellers want to be closer to their family. 14% of the families are reaching retirement age and they want to move to a lower cost of living area. I think that's important to note, especially when you add geographical data. Geographically, we know that in Florida, the seller typically moves an average of 41 miles from their current residence to their new home. Now, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, that might put you up in the Port St. Lucie area, a much lower cost of living, and you can still drive to the Broward Center. If you had a weekend, you could spend the night at the Marriott and still be living in a nice home, easy access to Broward County, Palm Beach County, and also to Miami. So when we think about the reasons that sellers are selling and what their motivation is, retirement or being close to family, let's look at that age range, that 63-year-old, and maybe plus or minus 5 years, so we can say these are our target markets. So when we're farming these neighborhoods and we're looking for sellers, I want you to also look at the demographic. I want you to look at the demographic as far as their age, and I also want you to look at sex, and if you can find it, whether they're married or not. Because we know that most of the sellers are married, 18% of them are single women, 16% are single men, and 7% are a couple living together. Find that data, target your market, let's make some sales. Sellers, when you're working with your realtor, let's be realistic. Let's use data to our advantage here as well. So if we look at 2021, we find that the median list to sale price was 100%. So that means that you list your house for, let's say, $450,000, and you sell your house at $450,000. Now we know the market has changed, and we know that many sellers don't know the market has changed, and many realtors haven't taken the time or don't know the amount of change that has occurred. Get the data, because if you have a house that's listed overpriced and a realtor or like me brings it up on the MLS, and I see that it's been on the market for 119 days even with price reduction, that tells me it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that if they were selling in less than 2 weeks in 2021, which by the way was the median time frame, and now they're on the market for 119 days, I got a chance to negotiate because they're listed because they want to sell that house, and I have an opportunity to work for my buyer to make sure that we get the best deal. Sellers, you don't want to be that person. You want to price it to sell. You want to be close to what the list and sale price is in your neighborhood to make sure that you have, number one, you have people at your property, more eyes on the property, and that your realtor can take a look at the buyers in that neighborhood and do videos like this and drop them into zip codes where we know people are coming from to that neighborhood. You know, we learn a lot about the sales process and what's going on with the market by simply looking at current data. For example, how many houses are actively on the market? What's coming on the market? How many had price increases? Not many. How many had price decreases? A whole lot. Versus how many closed sales there are, which might also include in your data your pending sales. I never include active under contract because there's too many contingencies there. And then compare those numbers. So if you look at the active listings versus closed and pending sales, as of today, we have 1,700 active listings and we have 1,200 sales. There's more inventory, there's more to choose from. Sellers, you need to focus your house on the buyer that's going to purchase your property so you can sell it to them. You need to understand the data, the demographic data, what they look like, where they come from, what they can afford, and how can you incentivize them to make sure they select your house. These are tricky but not difficult issues to deal with, and it takes an experienced realtor to lay it out with you with a plan, because you must have a plan to get anywhere. Sellers, I'd like to help you with some really good advice on selling your home right now. No longer can you simply put a sign up, put the listing in the MLS, and get multiple offers. That has changed. So I want to talk about back to basics. Back to basics in terms of how a home is listed, with professional photography, with videos done, with understanding where the buyers come from, how much money they make, so that we can drop your professional photography and videos into those areas of the country. We know, for example, in South Florida, that many of our buyers come from New York City. And I can drill down further, and I know that they come from Chelsea and Hell's Kitchen, as well as Manhattan. I also know that they come from Los Angeles, and some from Palm Springs, and some from San Francisco. They're bringing a lot of cash into our market. Let's capture it. Let's make sure we seize the opportunity. But we need to make a plan. We need to understand where these people are coming from, and we have to go back to basics. Realtors, we need to accompany all showings. No longer stick a lockbox on a property. Show up, tour the house for your seller, because our job is to get the most amount of money to our sellers in the shortest amount of time. They come down from New York, they want to see 7 or 8 properties in 2 days. My job, if I represent a seller, is to slow them down, because I know that house better than any buyer's agent. And I'm going to take the time to walk them through that property to talk about the features and the benefits of living in that neighborhood. Again, back to basics. We want to make sure that we go out of our way to help the other realtor. We're going to answer our phone. We're not going to rely on text. We're going to make sure the data that we insert in the MLS is accurate, that it comes from tax roll data or measurements of our rooms. Back to basics means doing real estate with integrity, taking our real estate jobs very seriously as professionals to make sure we follow up on every detail. Professional inspectors, professional attorneys doing the deals, professional realtors working with one another. The give and take in this business is what negotiation is all about. And it's important, Mr. Seller, that we do that for you to make sure you get that house sold at the highest price and in the quickest period of time. If you need help with your strategy, give me a call. My name is Gary Lanham. I'm with Coldwell Banker, and I can be reached at 954-695-6518. Thank you.